stuff has been happening politically in the country. There was this conversation over the weekend. Kalonzo, Raila, Nyanza, did he endorse? Did he not endorse? I did not endorse Kalonzo in 2027. So who did you endorse? So who are you endorsing in 2027? Oh, the name will be released just before the elections. Okay. Bomas talks Kalonzo again. Bomas is one of the co-chairs of the Bomas conversation. They have agreed. They have agreed on creating seats. This issue of Bei ya Unga, they are still not agreeing whether Bei ya Unga iko juu ama iko chini. It's not clear.
You know, it has actually gone down.
Bei ya Unga. Okay. So there's a whole conversation. Opiyo Wundayi is the leader of minority in the National Assembly. He joins us in the Situation Room. Welcome back, Mheshimiwa.
Thank you very much, Tim.
Good to have you here today.
Yeah, happy to be back here.
Uh-huh.
It's so refreshing. Meet this wonderful team.
Mambo mingi inaendelea. We'll talk about the Bomas talks because you know very well what's happening in Bomas. Were you in Nyanza over the weekend when this meeting was taking place?
Yeah, I was certainly in Nyanza. In fact, I came from Kitui the previous day. Mm-hmm. We had a bash, a very big Thanksgiving meeting in Kitui for the senator of Kitui, Enoch Kwamboa.
Enoch.
And the entire Azimio leadership was there. Mm-hmm. So I was there. Mm-hmm. And then from there, we flew to Kisumu.
And others took buses.
Well, you see.
You choose how you want to travel.
Yes.
It's out of convenience.
Basically, people went to Kisumu. People went to Kisumu. People went to Kisumu.
And they proceeded to Bondo the following day. That's on Sunday. Yeah, where we had another big bash. The senator for Siaya, Oburu Oginga, who was celebrating his 80th birthday.
Why?
Yes. What a feat.
That's a big one.
Yeah.
80 is many.
80 is many, bwana.
I don't know. I see 80.
Why?
Yeah, we wished him even many more years that they can celebrate. Yes, and continue to serve the people of Siaya and Kenya generally. And as we know, when people meet and politicians are present, people must talk.
Yep.
Yeah, so we also address the people who came there in their multitudes. Yes, that is it.
So, what was said in that meeting?
Many things.
Was there anything like, a warm welcome to our brother Kalonzo Musyoka and people from Ukambani who are here today, who've come to join us, in celebrating Oburu Odinga and appreciating and acknowledging that our brother Kalonzo Musyoka has stood with our son Raila Odinga in 2 previous elections as a running mate. Even in the last election, Kalonzo Musyoka supported Raila's candidacy and campaigned for him. Was there something like that?
Well, you have to put this in context.
Yes.
Yeah. First and foremost, the Honorable Kalonzo Musyoka was the chief guest. He was a special guest of Dr. Oburu Oginga. And he came in style. Okay? Why do I say so? He had a very, very large entourage comprising of the 3 governors of Kitui, Machakos, and Makueni, the senators, a host of MPs from the Wiper fraternity. Yeah, so he came in force as a true guest. And as Luos, we cherish visitors. Yes. If there's something that we value is
visitors.
Yeah. So we had to accord them the deserved welcome. Yeah, and indeed they felt at home. Yeah, that is it.
So you answer the question.
Well, and again, during the time of talking, people praised Kalonzo. Yeah, especially Baba. That Kalonzo has stood with him all this time from 2013. Yeah, twice as his running mate, and again this other time as basically one of the Azimio principals. And he said Kalonzo is a trustworthy comrade. He's a reliable person. He's been steadfast, and that they will continue to remain together. Yes, in fact, he used Kiswahili terms. Sisi tutazidi kusimama kidete na Kalonzo. Yes.
Very good.
And again, you see now from there, people make their own interpretations.
What was your interpretation as Opiyo Wundayi MP?
first of all, don't just ask for my interpretation, because you should understand I am in the know of many things.
Very good.
Yes. Going by the position I occupy in the movement. Okay.
So with you, there's no speculation.
No, I don't speculate on matters to do with our progressive movement. Yes. My take is that Baba was simply making a commitment that as a Azimio family, we shall continue to remain together and support one another, especially those of us who have remained steadfast like Kalonzo. Yes, support one another.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Baba
There was no mention of 2027. Yeah.
but in the future.
Well, support is
Politically
now
in the
and-
future is
yeah.
2027. Well,
Yeah. So I saw the media come with headlines, analysis, commentaries that now Baba has endorsed Kalonzo for 2027. Nothing could be further from the truth.
okay.
That does not mean that Kalonzo Musyoka is not competent enough to be the presidential candidate for Azimio. As a matter of fact, Kalonzo is eminently qualified to fly the Azimio flag as a presidential candidate. Not only 2027, but any other time. Yeah, including tomorrow, if there were to be a by-election. Yeah, in the country, Kalonzo can fly that flag. But the point is that we haven't reached that stage yet
Not yet.
of anointing a presidential candidate.
Context then, Mheshimiwa.
Yeah.
In the run-up to this meeting on Sunday, a lot of things have been happening. Number one, there's been talk on whether Raila should run in the 2027 election. The governor of Mombasa, in a meeting that was attended by Raila himself, said, Baba, make sure that you're on the ballot in 2027. You still have time, you still have energy, you still have a chance. Okay? This comes on the back of a visit by President William Ruto in the Nyanza region the previous weekend. And in that visit by President Ruto, among the things that he was saying when he was addressing the people is, we have worked with Agwambo very many years. Here we are again. We are having conversations taking place in Bomas. Now in 2027, if Agwambo is not running, it will be me against Kalonzo. This is Ruto saying that.
Yes.
It will be me against Kalonzo. See, Agwambo should support me against Kalonzo. Then here is Agwambo and Kalonzo in Nyanza and saying tutasimama kidete na Kalonzo. See the context of where people would be coming from. Speculation here is Raila, preparing the ground for, in the event I come and say, I don't think I want to be on the ballot again. Here is the man. The man will have been paraded before the crowd.
Yeah, you must also understand that part of the reasons why Baba was speaking in the manner he spoke in Bond was the outburst by Ruto the previous week or so while at Magunga, where he made those remarks about me mean I will be left with Kalonzo and so on and so forth. Baba was reminding him, because Ruto seemed to have suggested that Kalonzo is easy game for him. Yes. Baba was reminding Ruto that don't joke, that Kalonzo is 10 times stronger than you, politically speaking. Yes. And don't underrate him, in short. And that if he were to face you, he would floor you in the morning. And Kalonzo went ahead to confirm that when he rose to speak, that whoever will run will have a field day against these Kanyakwanza people because of the failures they have now been associated with. Now, that is politics. In politics, you always want to, first and foremost, disorganize your opponents. Okay? But more importantly, to portray to your followers is that you are strong, that you are ahead of the game. Okay? And therefore, there's nothing really unusual about what happened in Bondo. And many of such meetings are going to be held, and many of such outbursts are going to come out. The fact is that we as Azimio are focused. We are focused, and when the time comes, we shall unveil our candidate. In any case, by the way, those of us who have lived in this country long enough, I'm sure all of you have, there's going to be a lot of alignment and realignments. A lot of movements, okay? And this movement we have may evolve into something much bigger than Azimio has currently crafted. And therefore, let us hold our horses. Yes, let's hold our horses.
Which may talk about being focused, and it was very clear coming in from, April, May, June, and then going into July, of course, that one of the focus areas, whether it was taking up truly a position of opposition, was, the high cost of living, worried about where the economy was going and what Kenyans wanted. Would you say the focus continues to be in that area for Kenyans? I've always said that these Kenyans that everybody seems to be fighting for seem to be forgotten when it really does come to the battlefront. And I keep asking, is that focus, or is that still a focal point for you? Because Kenyans seems to be crying a little bit harder than they were in April.
It still is. What has made us what we are as a movement is the people. Indeed, when we led Kenyans in demonstrations early in the year, they turned out in their numbers. Gradually, the numbers continued to swell until it reached a point where it was becoming unsustainable for the state to continue meeting these demonstrations with the force of brutality of the police. Okay? And that's how the dialogue started under the stewardship of President Olusegun Obasanjo. So, Kenyan issues remain at the center of our engagement with Kenya Kwanza. And I want to disabuse people of this notion that the matter of the cost of living has been put in a back burner. No, far from it. The cost of living was and still remains one of the key issues under the dialogue at Bomas. I know the media reported that there has been some kind of agreement on a number of issues, including creation of some offices.
Has there not?
And so on and so forth. That is true. That is true. At the same time, it's also true that we are engaging on the matter of cost of living. Because it's a heavy matter. It's a very, very heavy matter that requires serious sacrifices in terms of taking legislative actions to remove certain taxes. So we are haggling over it. I don't want to diverge the what's going on in the talks in public. But the fact is that as a Azimio team, we are focused on ensuring that these talks do not end without an outcome on the cost of living. In fact, the talks will not be over until they are over. And they can only be over once the matter of the cost of living has been addressed. Take it from me.
All right, we will. Let me ask the question that's on my mind. Just this little subject of the agreement that was arrived at during the talks for the creation of two positions. How exactly would these two positions then make the lives of Kenyans better?
If you looked at it broadly,
Yes.
you'd understand the rationale behind creating of such positions. First and foremost, there has been this outcry of inclusivity.
Yes.
Okay? We have a feeling that the nature of this country is such that you need to involve as many diverse opinions, as many diverse shades of people, as many diverse ethnic groups as possible
Yes.
on the decision-making table. Okay, we find that our constitution as currently crafted is so restrictive. Okay, so we're trying to expand that. Okay, so that we have as many people as possible on board the governance structure. That is why there's this proposition to create the position of Prime Cabinet Secretary. But also, we want to bring synergy in government because we think that Prime Minister, that's actually our position as Azimio, we want a position of Prime Minister created through a referendum, okay, to be able to lead government troops in the House, Parliament. Okay, that's our position. It doesn't change it. Kenya Kwanza, of course, wants the current position of Prime Cabinet Secretary to be entrenched in the Constitution, to operate from outside Parliament. Okay, we haven't agreed on the full mechanics about it. There's also the issue of checks and balances. We feel again that in addition, of course, to the elected leaders as members of parliament, we need a position of leader of opposition created with the capacity to check the sitting government. Okay? We find some weaknesses in the current presidential system. Okay? Yes, where a person who has run for president and eventually comes up as a number 2 is left out there without a formal office, without nothing officially to do, and that really doesn't augur well, not only for national cohesion, but also for the capacity of the country to hold their leaders to account. So we think that we need to create a leader of official position for the runners up in the presidential election to sit in parliament and lead the opposition troops. In other words, we are basically watching for a parliamentary system. Okay? As Azimio.
So the leader of opposition to sit in parliament?
Yes.
To become a nominated MP or to become an ex-officio member of parliament?
Those are now details. Yes. What we are talking about here is once we create that position, and
what are you agitating for as Azimio?
We want him to become a member of parliament. It automatically becomes a member of parliament.
A nominated member of parliament. An automatically nominated member of parliament.
Once the constitution decrees he'll be a member of parliament, he is.
Okay.
You can't call him nominated. Okay. He is.
Okay.
By virtue of him having been runners up. Yes.
All right.
And therefore we lead the opposition troops in parliament. So that doesn't really add cost to people. In essence, it actually saves the country. Because if you have a strong opposition which can rein in government, it means therefore that even chances of corruption escalating could be minimized, and therefore you save taxpayers money, and the benefit essentially accrues to the public.
But what's the benefit, as CT is asking, what's the benefit of having the runners-up in parliament as opposed to you in parliament? You are the leader of majority or minority in parliament.
Well, I have just said that what we have currently is a kind of presidential system. Okay?
Yeah.
Yes. Which I think doesn't address our unique circumstances as a country. Yes, you must understand that. In the US, if I'm not wrong, which is the presidential system, okay? Many times, once those people run for president and they lose, they go back to become senators.
If they were senators before, they don't automatically become senators. Trump is out there.
In the UK, which is the parliamentary system, nobody runs for president, you know that.
Yeah.
It's the parties that compete. And on the basis of the number of seats they garner in the House of Commons, a prime minister is identified. And the queen or the king, as it is now, appoints the prime minister. And the leader of the party, or the second largest party or coalition of parties, becomes leader of opposition. Okay? So those are two distinct systems. And we seem to be basically operating under some kind of mongrel. We are presidential, and yet we have got some elements of parliamentary. So we want to refine this. The only way to do it is to do a referendum.
No. But then I'm not getting.
Yes.
This number 2 in the presidential election. What benefit do we as a country get if this number 2 gets an office in parliament, specifically in parliament? You know, it could also
Would
be
you
an office.
prefer him being outside parliament?
Could also be an office outside parliament. Why does that office have to be in parliament?
Well,
number 3, why do we have to have that office at all?
I've just elaborated.
I'm not seeing what we lose by not having that person becoming. They lost an election.
We need their services to check the government which is in power. We must understand. Governments need to be checked. And robustly.
But those that were elected and end up in a minority elect their leader in parliament. Opiyo Wundayi, for example, this time, is leader of opposition because he's leader of minority in parliament.
You may want to understand, Eric, that our system as currently crafted of governance, there's even no opposition in parliament.
Yes, I know.
Yeah, perfect. We basically have minority side and majority side.
And you're the leader
in
of
theory,
minority.
Both sides are supposed to check the executive.
Yes.
Okay.
In theory. In practice, that's not the case. Yes, in practice, those on the majority side seem to think that they are part of the executive. Yes, government. Yeah.
Endorse government activity. Yeah.
Correct. So we can enhance. No system is perfect. What I'm saying is that we can enhance, we can continuously improve on this system of ours. Okay, one such way is by allowing somebody who has the gravitas to run for president. You know, you can't compare Raila Odinga with Opiyo Wundayi, Eric. Come
No,
on.
no, we can't.
Yeah, you cannot. Yes, somebody with capacity to run for president and get millions of votes. Okay, we don't want him out there. We
Then
want
we
him.
reduce him to a mere MP.
We want him to come and lead the
That's what I'm
troops.
asking.
No,
We reduce
but
that person to a
he'll
mere
be coming
member
in
of
as leader of
parliament.
opposition with the,
He becomes Opiyo Wundayi in parliament.
So if looking at the import of this and to say it is so important that this individual gets into this position, I think I'm also still at the then for what? Why would that be so important? What would this individual be able to achieve within Parliament that they would not be able to achieve, let's say, if they had a position outside, or if they are where they are right now, today? Because it then would appear an awful lot, Mheshimiwa, and you have to look at it from this point. It would appear an awful lot as though we're saying, look, if you do lose an election, there's a little bit of something for you. That's what it looks like.
Ya kupanguza machozi.
You know, let me also just bring up to speed. You know, it is not easy for somebody out here without any formal office, even if you are a political party leader, okay, to keep government on its toes 5 years. If you are not a Raila Odinga, let me tell you,
You have to be an enigma.
you have to be an enigma. And we have got very few enigmas in this world. Yes. Who unto us one day if you have got no Raila out here checking government. And you've seen it. Anytime Raila keeps quiet for even a week, people cry. Why are they crying? Is it because they are not the leaders? They are there. People like Opiyo and I are there. But they can't look up to us. They look up to Raila. Yes. So we don't want to leave our country to fate. Let us institutionalize this opposition office so that at least, at the very least, somebody has got an office structure with support, budgetary support.
So is it okay? So is it somebody or is it Raila Odinga?
No, it's not being made for Raila at all. Okay, but in future, people will be running for president. Okay, and they will come runners up, they'll come second, and we want them to have an office where they can be able to serve the country. Okay, Raila can do it without an office. I've said that. He's doing it very effectively. In fact, he doesn't even need it. I can tell you. Let me for the first time speak for him. I don't think he needs that office of the opposition. No, far from it. But there are others who will not be able to do what Raila is doing now without such a formal office, with support systems. Okay? Yeah.
You know, Mheshimiwa, this constitution is now, what, over 10 years old?
Almost 12
13.
years. 13.
13.
Yeah.
So the constitution is an adolescent.
Yes.
Now,
Just getting out of leading strings.
it's exactly. And what we're discussing here seems to point to the teething problems that adolescents have when they actually get into adolescence. If we're talking about a referendum, then don't you think it is then time for us to review very many of the things in the Constitution? Things that we may have considered to be a sticking point? You see, I have one which I always talk about. The body that was set to usher in the Constitution and to review it and to ensure, to midwife it, so to speak. It was a 5-year term, or was it 3? It ended. There are I'm giving this as an example. There are many things that we have found to be in the Constitution, but probably don't work for us, like this system of the presidency. Now, if we are going to change this, what else do you have in mind that ought to be changed, that we've looked at and said, this actually doesn't help us, this doesn't actually encourage us?
Let me tell you, I'm happy with that question. In the last couple of weeks, we have had the public, members of the public coming to give their oral presentations to the National Dialogue Committee in Bomas. In addition to the hundreds of memoranda that they had earlier sent to us. If you were in Bomas, you'd be shocked at how Kenyans feel about our current system. And there were a raft of proposals coming from different sectors. Let me give you an example. The judiciary came, the Supreme Court came. They sent representatives before us. The judiciary, for instance, are asking, Supreme Court, they're asking the time for filing and determining presidential petition is not adequate, the 14 days. They want it increased to 30 days. The judiciary, the Supreme Court are asking that the number of Supreme Court judges be increased from the current, I think, 7 to 11 for various reasons. Okay?
So several benches can sit at the same
correct.
time as well.
Correct. The former, not the former, there's a group of MPs that came, the group of 27 MPs. They came agitating for an increment or increase in the number of counties, to create counties for those communities which they feel are marginalized. The former attorney generals, 2 of them came before us, Attorney General Emeritus Githu Muigai and Amos Wako. Githu Muigai, for instance, says, we have got too many people in parliament. We need to reduce the number of MPs and constituencies, and so on and so forth. Amos Wako says, we need to adopt a hybrid system of constituting the IBC. Okay?
Remove politicians from it.
Well, not fully. And governors. The Council of Governors came before us, led by their chairperson, Governor Anne Waiguru. They want the matter of impeachment of governors to be looked into. They want some kind of window, okay? Moratorium window. After election, maybe 2 years, okay? And then 1 year before elections, next election. And they also want the monies being allocated to counties, what we call the equitable share of revenue, that is earmarked for the counties to increase from the current minimum 15% to a minimum of 35%.
Yeah.
Those are very serious recommendations that people are coming up with that would actually call for a referendum, because if you touch them, you run afoul of Article 255 of the Constitution. So I agree with you that perhaps this is now the 13th year since the promulgation of the Constitution. Perhaps it's time we did a holistic review rather than this piecemeal
things.
My colleague Eric has been calling that for the longest time.
Yes.
This national dialogue is overdue. We need to have it.
Yes, holistic. So these Burma stocks are a window. We could seize them to utilize them.
Even if they started as something else, they're now morphing into.
Yes, that's the fact.
National.
Let's take a break. It is 23 minutes to 10. The Honorable Opiyo Wundayi is our guest this morning. He is the leader of the minority coalition in the National Assembly. He is a member for, what's that constituency? Ugunja constituency, not Unguja.
Ugunja. In Siaya County.
Thank you very much.
Not Unguja. Ugunja constituency
Yes.
in Siaya County. And he's also a member of the dialogue committee that's been meeting in Bomas. We are having conversations about the politics of the country and especially the outcome on what we expect to be the output of that committee's report. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
So there's some areas where you seem to be agreeing in some way. Not yet in the details, but at least on principle you're in agreement.
Yeah,
for example, the issue of the leader of opposition, creation of an office, the issue of entrenching the position of a prime minister or prime cabinet secretary, the issue of entrenching the national government CDF, the issue of the Senate Oversight Fund. Is that one of them? So those ones that touch on members of parliament directly or politicians directly, you seem to be, but tuko sawa. Then there's seems to be pending is on the review or audit of the 2022 election, the reconstitution of the IEBC and the modalities of that, the cost of living appears to be there. If I look at that, you appear to all be on the same page on the matters that are brought forth by the Kenya Kwanza side, but you appear to still be haggling over matters that are brought forth by the Azimio side.
Or the matters that started this whole thing in the first place, because I remember one of the reasons why Mandamano came to an end, and we can be very honest about this, is because there was a conversation one Sunday when people came together and they said, okay, you know what, let's talk about this. And it got to the point where Kenyans were almost at fever pitch and they said, you know what, if we are actually joining the conversation, if it started off as a conversation that came from the Azimio side in terms of Mandamano, Kenyans were starting to say, you know what, we actually resonate with this thing. And then, Gafla Binvu, we are suddenly in Bomas and we're having a conversation. But the very thing that took Mandamano off the streets seems to be on the back burner. In fact, is not even in the pot.
I don't.
And so I'm wondering. I'm actually wondering where some of these issues went.
I don't think so. I've said, and let me repeat, that the matter of the cost of living was and is still is a key issue in the dialogue. And I've said that these talks, from where we stand as Azimio, these talks will not be over until they are over. And they cannot be over until the matter of the cost of living is fully addressed. We have made our case very clear. That the Kenyans are choking under a heavy burden of taxes. Kenyans are choking under the generally high cost of food commodities, okay, and fuel, which is the driver of the economy anyway. So I don't think Kenyans should lose hope in this process. We are seized of the matter of cost of living, and we are going to do justice to it. Let me also say this: it's not true that all issues coming from Kenya Kwanza are the ones that have been agreed upon. No, far from it. We have also agreed on a number of issues that came from the Azimio side, especially the matter of fidelity to political parties and the multi-party democracy. Okay, we have also agreed on the reconstitution of the IBC. Okay, as a matter of fact, we have just agreed to overhaul the panel, this IBC selection panel. Okay, and increase its membership from the current 7 to 9 to address many other issues. Okay. We have agreed to have an audit of the elections process, okay, entire process, okay, by independent agencies selected by both sides, okay, working together. So we made a lot of progress, okay, and those issues that are on the table there. Let me tell you again, when we are on that table, we consider all these issues as Kenyan issues. They are no longer really Azimio or Kenya Kwanza.
They've become national.
Because they are national issues.
They are now
yes.
the property of parliament.
The property of the people.
Of the people of
Kenya.
Kenya.
The people. But more importantly, an issue such as NGCDF cannot be said to be an issue for MPs. I've been in parliament now for the last 11 years. Okay? This is actually, I'm waiting my 12th year in parliament. MPs are not the beneficiaries of NGCDF. NGCDF benefits the people, the poorest of the poor, down there in the constituencies. And therefore, if we agree on NGCDF, we have essentially agreed on a people issue. Come to think of it. Okay? And in my view, the Bomas talks are on track. If and when there is a disagreement, we shall let the Kenyans know. We are very good at telling people the truth. Yes, at least on our side. But so far, there's nothing to worry about. We have had noises out there, some discouraging the talks, some wishing that the talks collapse for their own reasons. For instance, I'm sure there are people out there who are not comfortable with creating the office of Prime Minister or Prime Cabinet Secretary because it will water down the influence of the office of the Deputy President. Okay? That's not our business. That's not our concern.
But why do we need to entrench that office? It's a cabinet secretary position. I always argue that a president is allowed to pick cabinet secretaries. There's a minimum and a maximum that's set by the Constitution. He can name his departments however he wants to name those departments. If he wants to name one minister, the minister for CT affairs, and the other the minister for Ugunja affairs, he can name her.
That's true.
As long as he's not, saying that this one will only focus on Ugunja. That's a national issue. So if president decides to call one cabinet minister prime cabinet secretary, and the roles are clear, they're not usurping the roles of a president or the roles of... Where is the issue? Where do we need to entrench that?
I think in addition to, of course, to creating inclusivity, there's also the need, again, for coherence in government. So this office ordinarily would be in a position to coordinate the affairs and functions of government. Okay? Any president, even if it was me, would want such a person who would help me coordinate the affairs of government. But the deputy president is essentially principal assistant to the president.
Yes.
So he doesn't have that to do all that. He's somebody who does jobs assigned to him by the president. Okay?
Why do we need to create an office to do that? The president can decide to create that. If a president feels that he wants to coordinate the government, let him do it.
It has been tried
If
before.
a president decides that he wants to create a Matiang'i to do it, it has been done.
It has been tried
if
before.
now a president decides that it's Moses Kuria who's going to do it, let him do it. Why do we have to create this and entrench it in any? If we haven't entrenched the Minister for Defense, well, we have in a way, because we have said that there shall be a Minister for Defense who shall sit in the National Security Council and the others. Why have we have not entrenched the Minister for Agriculture?
It has been tried before, and you see with different results, like Matiang'i case. Yeah, Matiang'i could have been a charismatic guy and so on and so forth, and therefore commanding respect of colleagues in cabinet. It's not very easy to get that kind of persons who, on paper, all cabinet ministers are the same.
Yeah.
They are actually cool.
Yeah.
To elevate one of them to be prefect of the others surely comes with difficulties. So you rather have this in law so that they know from day one that
there will be such a person.
Yeah, such a person coordinating the affairs of their ministries.
Instead of thinking that this is the teacher's pet.
Yeah.
Yes, this is
The big problems, yes. And now you see, even us, by the way, as a MU, we had proposed the position of chief cabinet secretary.
Yeah, in your line.
And we had marked Kalonzo Musyoka to be the holder of that office. Remember very well. Okay? That tells you that there's actually a need for such an office.
Actually, I tend to agree with you.
Perfect. Thank you.
And I'll tell you why I agree with you. Because we talk about ideal situations that we would like. And an ideal situation for the politics that we have in this country is not an easy place to... You can't arrive at it easily. Because it doesn't matter what we say. We have this need as Kenyans to feel we are represented. And representation doesn't mean you have elected an MP or an MC. Not that one. You need to have a national position somewhere that people can identify. So even when you talk about representation of MPs and people say we have enough MPs, me, I say even add a few more.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yes. No, sincerely.
A few more.
Add a few more. Because we keep talking about this huge budget that we have. The reason why we bother about the amounts that MPs are paid is because successive governments have shown that they do not take the responsibility of looking after their citizens very well. So things that the government ought to do, they do not do. And as a result of that, you feel, but why are these MPs earning so much money? And the answer is supposed to be a check and balance over this thing. But in terms of our politics and the way we like it executed, the feeling and this need to feel we are represented, it doesn't even go down to the clan. It goes down to family members. It goes down to very, very small units. And that is why you'll find, even when we elect our MCAs and MPs, when you come from a big clan and they're cohesive, you're likely to get elected. It's not even complicated. Now, once they get there, there's this thirst for yet another bigger position. And there's always one for another bigger one, and a bigger one, and a big one. Now, I don't know when we'll come to a point and say, but my thinking, theoretically speaking again, is if people understood that the government will serve all citizens equally, then, and they saw it being manifested, then this need for representation would not be.
I think that is it, CT. If they saw it being manifested, because you can say whatever you want. You can say whatever you want until the cows come home. But if you actually see it being manifested, I think that is very different. And I think then it wouldn't matter. And I think that's where we are stuck. That the manifestation of this thing that you have said seems to be the problem. That we cannot see it being manifested as often as we ought to.
We are held captive.
By words.
By political class.
You see now.
Right? The politician, those who get into politics, our politics have got into a place where they run the narrative. Unless we see our people up there, then they're not. When you had the conversations in Bombers in 2003, we were saying, no, let's devolve this thing. So this president guy, because this president guy was annoying, we defang him and we take power to the 47 governors. Now, those who are leading the Bombers talks have tasted that guy executive power. They're like, hey, but this thing is nice. No, let's actually create more offices around this guy, big office here. It is not serving in any way. In any case, even what the Bombers was proposing and all, if you look at it critically, it is trying to appease the big tribes. It is the numbers. Kalonzo Musyoka would easily occupy the office of Prime Cabinet Secretary because of the numbers that he brings. Musalia Mudavadi, because of the numbers that he is thought to be able to command in
at some point.
Right? It is the numbers. Do you think Danson Mungatana would occupy that office. On what ground?
Why not?
On what ground?
Even if
Youth.
even he's not a youth. even if he woke up very early in the morning, he would.
Twice.
Yes, I
He
mean,
would not see a Pokomo occupying that office.
you know, he can be appointed.
But
Politically, no.
It's a pre-election thing. You know where we.
Political might is numbers,
Yes.
and we know it. And then a solid mass of people behind
you.
and who it is understood are unshakably behind you. At that one, you have might.
So now the big 5 tribes continue running this country because they are guaranteed they'll occupy one. If one is president, the other one will be prime minister, the other one will be deputy president, the other one will be 2 deputy prime ministers. So it will always be that.
And if they disagree, somebody will be in the opposition.
Yeah.
Where I agree with you,
Even the opposition will be comprised of will be the same structures, same people.
where I agree with you is that there's this issue of exclusion, a feeling of exclusion.
Yes.
Yes, that fuels this clamor for our persons to be there. Okay? And it's a real thing. It's not just a feeling. You've had the deputy president in this regime proclaiming, not once, not twice, several times, that Kenya is now a shareholder,
Unapologetically.
it's now a company limited by shares. Okay? And that those who own shares are those who voted for the government. And he's saying it unapologetically. Okay? That tells you that if you belong to a community that for any reason didn't vote for this government, then you are basically excluded. That can be a problem in the long run. Okay? And we are saying, let's levelize the ground and create a structure which can accommodate people. Okay? Accommodate people. Our country is unique in its own way. Accommodate people and to maximize on the Kenyans' potential. Okay, let's have peace and tranquility reigning as a result of a feeling that we all belong. Yes. But also let's deal with these elements that create division. Yes. So I think the Boma's talks are on track. And I just want to appeal to Kenyans to support the initiative.
They're on track.
But
you see, the problem is Kenyans are not hearing you discussing Unga.
They'll be hearing us soon.
They are not hearing anything about Unga. We are hearing
And
all
fuel.
these other things.
And fuel.
It's
and
still
many
rising.
things. And
If anything, since the talks began, fuel has risen in terms of cost twice.
Well, the talks have no capacity to stop the rise in fuel.
But the point
The
is,
fuel
the point
being-
is that we do not
I
hear
thought
this
that the
conversation.
Mandamano had the capacity to stop it.
It is.
The point of the thing, and that's why I keep going back to it, at the risk of sounding like a broken record. But the truth is that is what was this irritation is what started these talks in the first place. And that if we see that since the talks began, again, cost of fuel has gone up 2 times. Even if you have no capacity to stop the cost of fuel going up, if the conversation is not being had at the place that birthed this conversation in the first place, then I'm a bit worried.
We have received representations from the people on the matter of cost of living, including the Federation of Kenya Employers.
The people are still having that conversation. The people are still coming, and they're making. You've just said it. It is still the people who have to come from outside to present it to you who is having this conversation. And we're saying, as this agitation is going on from the members of these bipartisan talks, or whatever national dialogue now that we're calling it, can it not be that the submissions, if we were really serious, that this is the reason why we are clamoring, the people who are making their submissions who sit at that table should be the ones who should be shouting ho-ha the whole day, cost of living, you people, cost of living, let us agree on how we're going. But we don't hear it.
Okay.
And if we don't hear it and we don't see it, then it poses a problem.
Good challenge there. I promise you will be hearing more about the cost of living in the coming days. But the increasing cost of living, and especially the cost of fuel, which is the driver of the economy, is as a result of failed policies of this regime. You all recall, of course, when they pushed through the now infamous Finance Act 2023, which had the effect of increasing VAT on fuel from 88% to a whooping 16%. Okay? You saw them embarking on what they're calling G2G, government to government fuel deal. That now the government went into some deal with some Arabs, I think in Dubai, that now they'll be paying for fuel in Kenya shillings.
Saudi Arabia.
Wherever. Yes. They'll pay for fuel in Kenya shillings, and now there'll be no pressure on the dollar. What have you seen instead? The fuel prices have continued to skyrocket. The dollar has continued, okay, to strengthen against the shilling at an alarming rate. In fact, we have reached a historic high, I think, of 155 shillings per dollar. There's no knowing where it will stop. So these are symptoms or signs or effects of failed and or failing policies
Mheshimiwa,
of our government in power.
Mheshimiwa,
Yes.
let's theorize a little bit, shall we? if Azimio were in power, what would they have done different?
You know, that is now hypothetical.
That's
No,
what I said.
no,
Let's
no.
theorize. No, I'm theorizing. I mean, the beauty of theory, it doesn't have boundaries.
It is not hypothetical. It would be hypothetical if we were saying
Yes.
that what's the other coalition called? If it were in power,
Kenya Kwanza.
not the other one.
Like
The third one.
Where again?
Federal Alliance.
Very allowed.
No, not those ones. There's another one.
Those
Actually,
ones.
let's say, if Third Way Alliance were in power, now we'd be theorizing. Azimio has seats in all levels of government, national and county.
You know,
What would Azimio have?
okay, let me now say the truth.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Uh-huh.
You know,
Yes.
we had said from the very beginning as Azimio that first and foremost, we shall bring sanity in the management of public affairs. Okay? And that we shall cut our cloth according to our size. We shall do a budget that is backed by revenue
The reality of revenue that we have
collection.
here.
So
Yes.
Azimio budget would have been 2 trillion. Because
I can't say a figure.
we
but it would have been,
collected 2 trillion.
it would have been a budget that, no, of course, you can still borrow money. Yes, but that borrowing must be
For development.
For development, really. Yeah, that's form part of budget. Okay? That we will deal head on with the matter of corruption, which you know is the single largest threat to our national unity and stability. So I think we would have done much more than this. And in the process, we would have had the goodwill of investors to come in and pump in money, inject capital in the country, and create employment opportunities, and the economy would grow. City.
So bei ya mafuta sahi and
Sasa ingeshuka.
would have been 100.
Perhaps 100 and 120.
That's why I said let's theorize.
Thank you very much for joining us. Opiyo Wundayi, member of Parliament for Ugunja constituency and leader of the minority in the National Assembly, has been our guest. Thank you for listening to Kenya's biggest conversation, The Situation Room. You'll join us again tomorrow morning from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. Do have yourselves a lovely day. Happy Tuesday. It's 10 a.m.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.